An hour-long public conversation about trade policy and the vagaries of Viennese economics versus neo-Marxist economics. It gets strange in her district, apparently. But again, this is so many folks on the left jumping to a sort of intersectional defense in which anybody who requests a discussion or debate must be evil by their very nature, right? I'm a man, therefore I am catcalling her, even though as an Orthodox Jew, I have never catcalled a woman in my entire life. It's catcalling because I guess if I suggest that I want to have a conversation, I'm demanding a response. Well, every request is a request. All she had to say here was, nah, that would have been fine. I mean, she's got that prerogative. But she goes around talking about how...
I mean, that's part of our platform,
absolutely.
Right? Everybody's a victim, and you know, we need to take as much money as we can from everybody else to redistribute it. That's what socialism is about. So is she just playing that victim card?
No question. And the fact that she feels the necessity to go to this particular card, right, to play the I'm a female and therefore I'm being victimized, this is like catcalling. The fact she goes there, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not interested in debate, the reason she didn't say the latter is because she didn't want to look like she was afraid. And she's been going around on the internet suggesting that people like Ali Stuckey are afraid of her when they make satire about her, or that people on the right are deeply afraid of her perspective. And then the minute that somebody says, you know what, I'm willing to have a discussion or a debate with you, and not only that, just to make it worth your time, I'll give money to charity or your campaign, then it's all of a sudden catcalling if you suggest such a thing. It's pretty amazing.
Well, you know, I first saw that, and it didn't even make sense to me because of the use of the word catcall and the fact that you actually were asking her to have a civil conversation and a real debate. But she's not going to do it. Why do you think she's not going to do it, Ben?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of upside for her, to be frank. I mean, if she were to get into a discussion with somebody who asks her tough questions, I don't think she has the information or the philosophy at her disposal to actually answer those questions well. And she knows that, which is why her best move here would have been either to just ignore or to say no, and then everybody would have moved on with their life. But instead, it turned into her invoking victim status, which, you know, rallies the base. There's no question folks in the media are very excited about this. If you look at the leftist response to her tweet, it's Ocasio Cortez responds the way every Democrat should respond to anybody on the right who wants to have a discussion. And then they wonder why more Americans are turning away from the intersectional left than ever.
Yeah, you know, Ben, one of the things that has always made us great is an appreciation for some kind of intellectual diversity, right? Being able to have civil debates, being able to share ideas. I mean, that's how we evolve. That's how we get better. But when one side isn't even willing to have the conversation, where does that leave us as a country?
Yeah, that is the serious problem. And what's absurd is there are a bunch of folks on the left who responded to this entire controversy by tweeting at me. These are mainstream left commentators saying, well, why don't you have me on your show? And I was like, okay. And they didn't really know how to respond to that because I'm happy to have conversations with folks on the left. I have conversations with folks on the left all the time. The left just doesn't want to open the Overton window enough to have conversations with anybody on the right.
Yeah, well, because they automatically assume they're right, you're wrong. And they don't want to be proven otherwise with any kind of factual knowledge. I mean, look, you know, I think if you go out and you ask anyone, and you know this better than Americans believe in opportunity, right, and prosperity. It's just in our DNA. It's part of what this country was founded on. But you go around the world, and whether you're talking about Venezuela, or you're talking about Cuba, you're even talking about Denmark, where they charge well over 50% in taxes at the federal rate. So everybody's working for the government, where you pay 180% tax on a car, which is more than the cost of a car. Or, you know, you go to college and get a stipend. They plan on 5 years, but everybody's taking 6+ years because you're being paid to go to a free college. It shows you, when you look at their debt levels, even in Denmark, it just doesn't work, does it?
Well, I mean, this is the serious problem with a lot of socialist philosophy, is that they're constantly shifting the goalposts. You know, is it that their education system is good, or their healthcare system is good, or is it that all of these systems are built atop a capitalist edifice that made these countries prosperous in the first place? And these are the conversations that actually should be had. Yeah. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not interested in having them, obviously.
Hey, by the way, let me ask you about the harassment of conservative commentators. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, what did you think about that one?
Well, I mean, obviously, that was insane. And I told Charlie I feel lucky that I eat in kosher restaurants where most of the people who are around me are members of my community, because I'd like to be able to get through a meal in peace. Apparently, Charlie and Candace cannot.
Well, you know, Ben, I'll tell you one thing. Had you debated her, my money's on you.
Well, it would have been fun. Would have been fun. Oh, well.
All right. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here.
You too. The fact that the Democrats are out there, you know, praising Obama for his interventionism. I mean, again, he did start a shooting war in Libya. For his intervention in the Middle East without any congressional approval, and in fact, in spite of congressional disdain. And yet now they are complaining about all of this. They want to restrict war powers. That's a cynical play. the Democrats' behavior here is just amazing. The fact that Ilhan Omar, an open anti-Semite who openly sympathizes with the Ayatollahs. I mean, she put out a tweet yesterday about economic sanctions against Iran, suggesting that economic sanctions are a form of warfare, which is weird because she doesn't really care about, in fact, she supports sanctions against the Jews. Ilhan Omar really does not like them Jews. She's very much in favor of BDS against Israel, a democratic ally of the United States, but she says economic sanctions against Iran are very bad. Shocking. Yesterday, she did this press conference where Ilhan Omar expressed that she had post-traumatic stress disorder thanks to tensions with Iran. Well, clearly we should formulate our foreign policy based on the fact that Ilhan Omar is having flashbacks or something.
I feel ill a little bit because of everything that is taking place, and I think every time I hear about I hear of conversations around war, I find myself being stricken with PTSD, and I find peace knowing that I serve with great advocates for peace and people who have shown courage against war.
Are we supposed to take this human being seriously? This is a human being we are supposed to take seriously? A person who once wrote letters in support of people who had joined ISIS, asking a judge for more mercy upon them. This did happen in Minnesota, well reported by the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. She sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, despite the fact that she says an anti-Semitic thing approximately once every 32.9 seconds. This human being who says, yes, clearly we should formulate our Iran policy around Ilhan Omar because she feels a little ill. She feels a little ill. Really? Okay. What this is about for people who are not Ilhan Omar, who's just a radical who is not cold. She's lukewarm at best with regard to America's anti-terror efforts. Let's just put it that way. The mainstream Democratic players are more focused on how much they hate Trump than they are about the interests of the United States. And that is pretty obvious. James Clapper, the former head of the Central Intelligence Agency under Barack Obama, he suggested that, when we were paying off the Iranians, that wasn't us paying off the Iranians. We were just giving them the money that they had already earned. I mean, we were just freeing up their money. I've heard this talking point from many members of the left that when the Obama administration shipped pallets of cash to Iran and gave them $150 billion, that wasn't bad because after all, that was money that had been earned by the Iranian government. I mean, that was money that was owed to the Iranian government. Okay, well, what's a thing that we do here in the United States? Let's say that a drug dealer gets arrested for being a drug dealer. We seize his assets. One of the reasons we seize his assets is because we don't want him using those assets for further drug dealing. The notion that, that drug dealer really did earn that money, I guess we should just sign that check over. A uniquely foolish position from the Obama administration that was pursued to the hilt and led to the rise in terror.
It is not as though we provided taxpayer money to the Iranians. What we did was, what the administration did was unfreeze assets that were actually the Iranians. The weapons, security assistance funding for weapon systems that we were providing the Iraqis way back when. So we freed that up. And the actual intelligence evidence that I saw before I left, it didn't indicate they used much of that for supporting their nefarious activities, which they're going to do in any event, regardless.
Money is fungible. It's fungible. They didn't have to use that specific earmarked dollar for buying a ballistic missile. If they used that specific earmarked dollar for something else and then used a different dollar for the ballistic missile, the dollar still went for the ballistic missile. Ridiculous. Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content. Basically, according to Nancy Pelosi, it is these lawyers who came forward who changed the entire nature of the ballgame. We'll get to the lawyer testimony in just one second because it did not change the nature of the ballgame. It was basically a bunch of lawyers who are Democrats who came forward and said that Trump should be impeached, and then one lawyer who apparently is also a Democrat who said Trump should not be impeached. That is not dispositive. Sorry, that's not how this works. Okay, so Nancy Pelosi says that. Then she has this very wild moment where she's about to walk off stage, and James Rosen, who's a reporter formerly for Fox News, he asks her whether this is all based on hatred for Trump, because that, of course, is what Republicans and Trump have been alleging, right? Is that this is all about personal animus, that the Democrats want Trump out. This isn't about anything that is legally based, that there is no actual crime that's been committed here. And Nancy Pelosi turns around and starts berating him. An hour-long public conversation about trade policy and the vagaries of Viennese economics versus...
First, I'll try to keep things as brief, I guess, as I can, but who knows when I get on a roll, right? When I was a little girl, my father took me to the reflecting pool here. We were on a road trip from New York to Florida to visit family. And I've told this story before, but it was my first time ever visiting Washington, D.C. And it was my only time visiting Washington, D.C. for years, if not decades. And he rested me on the side of the reflecting pool and had my toes dip in the water. And he had me look at the Washington Monument, had me look at the Capitol, had me look at the entirety of the capital of our great country. And he looked at everything and he pointed to all of it. And he said, this belongs to all of us. This belongs to you and it belongs to me. And so the first note that I want to tell children across this country is that no matter what the president says, this country belongs to you. And it belongs